Hi and welcome to SciJoy. Today we're at the Boston Museum of Science. We're going to go look at how lightning is generated. We're going to listen to some clips about the Cassini spacecraft by one of its scientists, and we're going to look at some of the hands-on exhibits that they have here at the museum. Before we watched a lightning show or got a behind-the-scenes tour of how it worked, we got to explore the museum. We saw a science demonstration, dead things, living things, the brains of several different kinds of animals, and all of the things that you should never, ever microwave, like Peeps, aluminum foil, and light bulbs. We saw the spinning models, the waves of the electromagnetic spectrum, and the first robotics mentor in me had to check out Dean Kamen's clean water exhibit. And we also got to learn about the conservation efforts of water through an art exhibit. Sometimes scientists need artists to bring their message to life, and a few of the paintings looked like pictures the Cassini spacecraft took of Saturn's moons, which Dr. Richard French showed us during one of his presentations.
A spacecraft was launched from Florida that took 7 long years to get to Saturn. Is anybody out here 7 years old?
Almost.
Okay, that's how long it took your whole life to get from Earth to Saturn. No room for mistake. You either get there or you don't. And so just before the spacecraft went into orbit, we all bowed to Yoda and said, SOI burn. You must find the SOI burn. There is no try, there is burn or no burn.
Dr. French reminded us that since Cassini launched in 1997, it has similar computing power to the Apple computer. He showed us amazing pictures of the structures of the rings of Saturn, and they think more moons might be forming from the rings in addition to the 62 moons that already exist. Each moon is unique and full of surprises. The push and pull of Saturn causes over 100 geysers on Enceladus to shoot out plumes of water, and these are added to Saturn's rings. The Cassini team wants to fly the satellite between the rings of the planet during the grand finale of its flight before they crash it into the surface of Saturn. The mission will end after studying the Saturnian system for about half of a Saturn year, which is equivalent to about 15 Earth years. During the final leg of Cassini's mission, they want to look at the climate on the surface of Titan and examine its liquid methane seas. They also plan on flying through an erupting geyser. When Dr. French finished telling us about Cassini's mission, we met up with Eric. We are getting a tour today from Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric. I work here at the museum in the Current Science and Technology Department. We're talking about science in the news and new technology and that kind of thing. I also work in live presentations where we're doing animal shows, lightning shows with our giant Graaff Generator, super cold science, and basically any kind of science you can think of.
There was a question about your exhibits. How do you guys make your exhibits? How do you come up with your different presentations? Is it people that work here? Do you have other companies that help you out?
So we have a different team for our live presentations and for all the exhibits that we have. We have a team that comes up with the ideas behind the exhibits and how they're going to work and what kind of interactions and what kind of science they'll teach. We have another team that goes ahead and builds those exhibits, fabricates them from scratch and makes sure everything's working properly, and then another team that maintains all those exhibits. So once they get here in the museum and they're used by our millions of guests every year, a lot of those components break down or don't work as well. So we have another team dedicated to making sure that they work as good as possible. And as far as our live presentations, we have a staff that works both on stage, delivering all those presentations, and behind the scenes coming up with our next one.
And I think most people, when they come to a museum, they think, oh, I'm just going to go look at some things, but I don't think they realize how interactive this museum is. So what are the different kinds of things that visitors can do when they come to this museum?
Yeah, it's kind of a thought that pops in your head when you think museum. You really think I'm going to go and look at things behind glass cases and there's nothing to do, and that's how it used to be maybe even 50 years ago when the museum was starting out on this property. You can see it in some of the exhibits that we still have from that time. The dioramas over in the animal wing are really just dioramas of a moose habitat or a beaver dam. But since then, we started to realize that people will enjoy it more and get more out of it if they could also smell what a beaver dam would smell like, or touch a a bear's fur or do some other kinds of sensory activities. It's called universal design, trying to have as many senses involved and involve as many people as possible, having things lower to the ground, having things in larger fonts. And so the newest exhibits that are being produced are really almost 100% interactive. There's no looking and not touching at all. It's kind of an experience where you walk into a wing and you have a whole journey through the exhibit with interactive videos, and you can measure yourself, your stride and your lung capacity and all things like that. So it really is kind of a modern way to express some of the same science that we've always been doing, but in a much more entertaining and fun way.
And with that, we were off to explore the museum. We got to ride around in this chair. We got to blend our faces together using light and mirror and reflections. We got to run up a set of musical stairs and debunk the drain myth and capture ourselves in our best thriller poses.
Oh, that is so cool!
And we went to the Hall of Ology, which was right near the exit, which was good because I've never been so close to throwing up at a museum. It smells in here! And there was a smell center where you would squeeze a bottle and guess what you're smelling.
It's one of those things.
What is the options? A mouth, an armpit. Oh no. Hey, you smell this one.
I really don't want to.
Then we set off to do a design challenge.
An engineering design workshop that has activities where you're challenged to build something and test it and then see how it works and then refine your design just like a real life engineer. So we have challenges involving, can you build a really fast bobsled that will go down a track very fast or very slow? Can you build a trampoline using given materials that will have a ball bounce really high off of it or bounce really low off of it? And the idea is that you build it with these materials and then see how it works and then evaluate that design and go back and change it to improve it and make the ball bounce higher and make the bobsled go faster. That's what real life engineers do. So it's an activity where you're not just building one bobsled, seeing how it works, and that's the end of it. You're really encouraged to continue that engineering process to the finish where you have something that works a lot better than what you started with.
And they change all the time, and you get little, is it magnets that you can get?
Right, so the activities happen once or twice a day at the museum, and they're open for about 2 hours at a time. You go through the activity and you get a magnet for completing it, and we have, at this point, probably a dozen or so different challenges that you might see on any given day.
So tell us a little bit about maybe your career and what jobs are like working at the museum.
So I work in current science and technology in the education department, and so I do lots of science in the news presentations. We have science snapshots and afternoon report presentations where we talk about stories that are happening right now in the news, with the Rosetta spacecraft that just entered an orbit into around a comet last week. We're talking about some cancer research that involves new technology, things like that. And so it's really exciting to be able to cover this and present to people as these things are happening, not as a let me tell you 10 facts about the planet Saturn, but as a let me tell you 10 facts about the planet Saturn we learned about yesterday because this research just came back from the spacecraft that's there right now.
Which is another thing, I think, when you think museum, you think historical, things that have already happened, but this is more about what is happening right now and what has previously happened.
Right.
So you're bringing it all together.
Right. If you come to a museum nowadays, you can see lots of things that we've known for a long time and also things that are brand new. We try to keep it very fresh. People that come back on a monthly basis hopefully will always have something new to experience.
So what are some maybe the favorite parts of your job?
So I really like that I get to produce the shows and give them on the stage. I get to have a hand in exactly what's going to go into the presentations, what's important. I get to try to steer the content towards the things that I think are really exciting or important, and then I get to go on the stage and see the end result of that, which is that people are fascinated by these facts that they had no idea about, that they didn't have any idea that we had a spacecraft going around Saturn for 10 straight years, or that we could detect cancer by the way a person's breath smells. And these new technologies have been really great to kind of go from the beginning of the idea all the way through to the end final product on the stage.
It's probably pretty cool too because you don't sit behind a desk all day and it's always changing, always something new, something different that you get to do every day.
Right, it's definitely not a desk job, and I often end up kind of sweaty at the end of the day, which I guess is a negative.
So, did you want to show us the lightning show and the things that go along with that?
Sure, let's go over to the Theater of Electricity and check out the world's largest Van de Graaff generator. So this is our Thomson Theater of Electricity here at the Museum of Science, where we have daily lightning demonstrations talking about the forces behind lightning and electricity, a little bit about lightning safety, and we finish with grand finales we call our Symphony of Sparks. So the first thing we're going to show you is our Van de Graaff generator. It's the world's largest air-insulated Van de Graaff generator, and it generates sparks that are over 1,000,000 volts. Now these Tesla coils produce a note. All those sparks that are producing, not a constant spark, but 120 every second, sound at a specific pitch to our ears. We have another set of Tesla coils where we can alternate how fast or slow those sparks are being produced. A whole lot more in a second is a really higher note, and only a few is a much lower note. So these ones sound a little bit different. We have a smaller version of our Van de Graaff generator that we'd like to plug into our guests because it has some other effects. By adding lots and lots of negative charges to a person, their hair starts to become repellent to all their other hair, sticks apart, and starts to stand up on end. Get down, or you can give me all your electric charge at once. Yeah, fist bump. So this is the equipment room where all the breakers and fuses are, and past this door is all the equipment inside the columns of those Van de Graaff generators that generates all that electric charge. So we're going to step in there in just a second. So we discharge those belts to make sure there's no extra electric charge on them. We use a tool that's metal on one side and wood on the other, so that if there is any charge on there, it's not going to go through me and down to the ground. It's going to go through the paths that we designed for that. So you can see that there's 3 gigantic conveyor belts inside of this column. And these 3 conveyor belts have these cones right next to them, and we supply charges to these cones. When those conveyor belts start to spin, they carry all the charge from the cones from the basement 3 stories up to the top of those giant domes. One of my favorite parts about this particular piece of equipment is the socket where it plugs into the wall. So a very similar socket to the ones we have at our houses for lamps or video game systems powers this entire machine. We just use that electric charge very cleverly.
So they're really huge motors that spin shafts that are attached to the 3 belts that go from the base of the Van de Graaff generator all the way to the top domes. And these combs at the bottom of the top either remove or deposit charge. Thank you for exploring the museum today with SciJoy, and if you have any more questions for Eric, you can ask us on Twitter, Facebook, or down in the comments below. And remember, keep exploring.